This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. We turn now to the future of the Democratic Party. After a major debate, Democrats have voted on a key progressive demand after the 2016 campaign to vastly reduce the power of superdelegates in choosing the party's presidential nominee. The vote passed to a huge ovation and cheers on Saturday.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes overwhelmingly have it, and the report and the charge, the call, is adopted.
Saturday's vote of the DNC, the Democratic National Committee in Chicago, officially barred the superdelegates from voting on the first ballot to choose the party's presidential nominee unless a candidate has secured a majority of the convention using only pledged delegates whose votes are earned during the primary process. The vote to limit the influence of superdelegates comes after the 2016 race for Democratic nominee between Senator Bernie Sanders and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. It pitted many DNC members who supported the change against two former party chairs and members of the Congressional Black Caucus. For more, we're joined by someone who was there for what DNC Chair Tom Perez is calling a historic vote. Norman Solomon, National Coordinator of Roots Action, a Bernie Sanders delegate from California to the 2016 Democratic National Convention, where he coordinated the Independent Bernie Delegates Network, also Executive Director of Institute for Policy for Public Accuracy.
It was historic and very exciting not only to be in the room when that vote was taken, but in the days ahead of that vote, out with people from my colleagues at rootsaction.org, Progressive Democrats of America and elsewhere, picketing with that message that really is the gist. Democratic Party, live up to your name. And this was, I think, a tremendous victory that came not from the top, out of the goodness of any hearts of those at the pinnacle of power of the Democratic Party, but from the base, the grassroots, people who have been angry, who have been organizing, especially in the last 2 years, to say that superdelegate power and leverage over the nomination process has to go.
I want to go to former DNC chair Don Fowler, describing his opposition to restricting the power of superdelegates, speaking during an interview with the Chicago Sun-Times.
We're going to prohibit 200 African Americans, 100 Latinos, dozens of LGBTQ people, and others from voting. We're taking the vote away from these people.
Is former interim Democratic National Committee Chair Donna Brazile describing her opposition to curbing the power of superdelegates in an interview with the Chicago Sun-Times.
The question is whether or not automatic or so-called superdelegates, and there's nothing super about us, will be able to vote on the first ballot. The position of many in the party is that we deserve, those of us who are unpledged delegates, we deserve to have a voice in the process. And whether it's at the table with a vote or behind the scenes, raising money for candidates or taking candidates around, we believe that automatic delegates should continue to play a role because we're part of the sauce. We're part of the sauce for victory.
That was former interim DNC Chair Donna Brazile speaking after the vote that she opposed. Norman Solomon, talk about this victory and how you organized for it, and the fact that Tom Perez, the chairman of the DNC, voted with you.
Yes, frankly, Tom Perez, the chair of the DNC, was dragged kicking and screaming, but ultimately very effectively to advocate for this, I think, very profound change. It should be said that the organization Our Revolution did a tremendous job in the last 2 years, working inside and outside the Democratic Party to help organize this tremendous change. And a year ago, 6 months ago, it seemed virtually impossible to get such a clean sweep in terms of superdelegate power. What we heard from Donna Brazile there and Don Fowler was the anger of the old guard, losing their grip on power, losing their ability to put their thumbs on the scale. It is a new day. We're getting socialists elected to Congress through the Democratic Party primaries. We've got to keep organizing and fighting. Well, let's be clear. This is a victory for the grassroots, for progressives, but it's only a beginning. We have a long, steep mountain to climb, and we got to keep pushing.
But for people, especially outside this country, but I think inside this country as well, who just don't get what superdelegates are, explain exactly what happened. What power did you strip them? What power did they have?
Yeah, the gist is that superdelegates were 15% of the total Democratic National Convention to choose the presidential nominee. And those superdelegates were not elected for the purpose of or in designation from voters as to who the nominee should be. They were kingmakers. They had power apart from any Democratic, lowercase d, accountability, and they loved it. Every Democrat in Congress, every Democratic governor, Democratic Party officials, and they liked having candidates go to them hat in hand. Will you endorse me? Will you support me? Will you pledge your vote? And those advanced pledges were a huge boost to Hillary Clinton, not just 15% of the votes, but from the starting line, she was way ahead.
I mean, something that just infuriated not only Bernie Sanders supporters, but others, even, I think, Hillary Clinton supporters. At the very beginning, before the primaries, they were talking about they have wrapped up the superdelegate support, so they have won. So people who are going to go out to vote at all these primaries are saying, then why are we going out to vote?
Before a single ballot was cast in a Democratic primary or caucus, Hillary Clinton had more than half of the superdelegate votes, and that allowed the cable channels to run on their lower part of the screen. Hillary Clinton way ahead as the front runner. And an analogy would be, let's say you have two contestants in a race. The gun goes off, but at that moment, one of the racers is way ahead, and that is because of superdelegates. And not only that, by being way ahead at the start, then the nutrients, the vitamins, the water, in the form of funding and media momentum is already given to that person, whereas in this case, Bernie Sanders was still the starting line.
And now you have President Trump.
Now we have President Trump, who has to be defeated, and progressives have this dual necessity to fight the right, the xenophobes, the racists, and let's be clear, in November, we can only defeat them through Democratic Party candidates to take back the House and hopefully even the Senate, but also to fight like hell for progressive principles because, let's face it as well, the Democratic Party is controlled by people who are part of the military-industrial intelligence complex, and they won't give it up without a big fight ahead.
We're going to leave it there, but of course we continue to cover this right through the midterm elections and beyond. Norman Solomon, National Coordinator of RootsAction.org. When we come back from break, we go to Dublin, where Pope Francis marked the first papal visit to Ireland in 39 years by acknowledging the failure of church authorities to address child abuse crimes by the clergy. Stay with us.